Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a hard look at something called the PMI poverty tax, and really the true cost of rushing the so-called American dream. We're pulling some fascinating insights from Nick over at Freedom First to completely deconstruct a massive financial trap that honestly so many people are falling right into these days. Let's jump right in.
Picture the scene, right? It's midnight. You're doom scrolling through Zillow on your phone, and you find yourself staring at this tiny, 1,200 square foot box of a house. It's got that lovely beige carpet and laminate countertops straight out of 2003. And yet, the listing agent has the absolute audacity to call this a starter home with a completely straight face while slopping a $500,000 price tag on it. No way, right? You're sitting in the dark doing mental math on your salary, just wondering if you somehow missed a massive promotion at work or if the entire housing market has just literally lost its mind. Well, Nick points out that this house isn't actually the American dream at all. It's a carefully orchestrated financial stress simulator.
Now, to really understand why this is such a trap, we have to look at how the rules of the game have totally warped over the years. We all know the old golden rule of home buying, right? But 20% down. Well, on a $500,000 home, that means handing over $100,000 in cold, hard cash. But here's the bleak reality check. The median savings account balance in America right now is sitting right around $8,000. That is a massive gap. So what do most of us do when faced with that? We compromise. People scrape together 5 or 10% just to get their foot in the door. But as you'll see, doing that unlocks a pretty brutal, hidden financial punishment.
Now, what's super interesting about this next part is how Nick completely redefines PMI. You know, private mortgage insurance. He doesn't just see it as a standard fee. He actually calls it a poverty tax. Think about it. When you put down less than 20%, you get slammed with this fee. Usually anywhere between $200 and $400 every single month. And what exactly do you get for that extra cash? Absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. It's basically a fee you're charged for the crime of not being wealthy enough to put 20% down in the first place. You are paying out of your own pocket every month for an insurance policy that strictly protects the bank, not you. It's a penalty for rushing into a deal you just weren't financially ready for.
And man, those penalties snowball fast into what our source calls the brutal math. Let's break it down. When you combine today's interest rates, property taxes, homeowners insurance, and that lovely PMI poverty tax we just talked about, your monthly mortgage payment on that quote-unquote starter home lands somewhere between $2,800 and $3,200. But wait, there's more. People always seem to forget the 1% maintenance rule. On a $500,000 house, you need to be setting aside roughly another $417 a month for when, the water heater inevitably explodes on a Sunday night. So when you tally the whole shebang up, your true total monthly housing cost is hovering right around $4,367. So the absolutely crucial point here is what that big number actually means for a normal household. To put that into perspective, if your household is making $100,000 a year, that $4,300 housing cost, it eats up nearly half, 46% to be exact, of your take-home pay. Just pause and really think about that for a second. Nearly half of every single dollar you earn, gone. Poof, right out the door immediately just to keep a roof over your head. And suddenly, this isn't just a math problem anymore. It becomes a biological one. Which brings us to the very real physical toll of being house poor. Our source highlights this wild fact. When you're spending that massive chunk of your income on just your four walls, your brain literally shifts into survival mode. Your cortisol levels, your body's primary stress hormone, they just stay constantly spiked. You're not just a little tight on cash. You are living in a chronic state of biological stress. Your body actually believes it's constantly under threat because honestly, financially speaking, it kind of is. And what does that survival mode actually look like on, say, a random Tuesday afternoon? Well, it looks like standing in the cereal aisle at the grocery store, pulling out your phone to check your bank balance before deciding which brand to buy. It's having to look your kid in the eye and say no to a $35 school field trip because you know for a fact you might desperately need that $35 if the check engine light comes on during your commute tomorrow. When you stretch your finances this thin, guys, you aren't building equity. You've essentially just become a prisoner inside your own home. And this is exactly why our source emphasizes discovering the power of no. You have to take a step back and realize you're playing a rigged game. The whole system around you, the banks, the real estate agents, heck, even the well-meaning pressure from your parents, it's all perfectly designed to push you into that house. And why is that? Because they all profit the very second you sign your name on that dotted line. Nobody in that entire transaction has any real incentive to pull you aside and warn you, hey, you're about to financially drown yourself here. You have to be the one to step up and say no to that pressure. We really need to fundamentally reframe how we look at wealth in this country. Society pushes this massive illusion that wealth automatically equals home equity. But let me tell you, there is absolutely no trophy for being house poor. I mean, what good is having hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity if you literally can't access it to pay for your groceries and you're waking up stressed out of your mind every single day? Real wealth is not trapped in accessible equity. Real wealth is freedom. Real wealth is actually having a margin in your monthly budget so you can finally just breathe. So instead of rushing into this American dream and joining in on the collective financial insanity, the explainers suggest we focus on a totally different target first. And this is a brilliant shift in perspective. A $20,000 cash foundation. That right there is the magic threshold. That is the milestone where your financial boulder finally crests the top of the hill. Hitting that exact number in the bank, it completely changes your entire relationship with money and, more importantly, with stress.
And this brilliantly illustrates why that 20 grand is so transformative. It essentially becomes your walking away money. It gives you this incredible leverage in life. Imagine walking into work on a Monday morning with this secret superpower, knowing you aren't just a captive audience for your boss. You don't have to tolerate a toxic environment just to survive because you've got a cushion. And honestly, the best part, you actually sleep peacefully at night. You know you aren't one $800 break job away from missing a mortgage payment and watching it all come crashing down.
So, what does this all mean for us? I want to leave you with this final, really provocative thought from our explainer today. Take a long, hard look at your financial trajectory right now. Are you truly building wealth and equity, or are you just rushing to build yourself a ridiculously expensive prison? The absolute smartest move you can make is to look at the brutal math. Recognize that the game is rigged against you and consciously choose not to play until you are 100% ready. Just imagine, what kind of life, what kind of independence, and what kind of total peace of mind could you finally say yes to if you just had the courage to say no to the poverty tax?